Hi, and welcome to the Research Room, a space to make research by the people for the people. And this is our first episode. Yay!
Yay!
Or maybe this is our intro episode. Maybe we shouldn't call this the first episode. Maybe this is actually the intro episode.
It's
The
both.
first
It's
episode will be in a
both.
couple weeks. This is okay, it's both. But okay, we want to introduce ourselves. Basically, we are a brand new company trying to reach as many communities as possible through our podcast, or through any of the stuff that we're making. Podcast is just one of the things, and we'll get into all of that in just a little bit. But today, we just want to talk through what is this podcast even? What do we hope people get from this? And hopefully, what do people not get from this as well? But we'll see how that goes. Um, we have a lot of thoughts on psychological research, its uses in life, and what it can and can't do. But we don't want to just like say our opinions on this. So we decided to do a quick study and we got the opinions of other people. And I think I'll just like maybe start with some of those opinions and maybe that'll start to introduce like what we want to do with this podcast. So let me read this thought here. So a whole group of people thought this kind of sentiment that academia erases the narratives of groups and people. Often, those erasures happen with marginalized groups of people, or just like any kind of background that isn't the majority background, and that there needs to be more diversity when it comes to research to make it more representative of the people. And I mean, if people didn't say this, I would have said this. And I think, Liz, you
I
would have
would
also said
too.
this.
Absolutely.
Yes, that research, I mean, as great as it is, it has done a poor job of really reaching out to as many communities as possible, especially like in the United States. There's so many different groups of people, and it's hard to generalize findings from just one group of people if that group of people is of a certain ethnic background or of a certain socioeconomic status or of a certain age, sometimes university students or whatever. Like that's not necessarily going to apply to everyone, right? So we want to make sure that not only that like research gets out to all these people, to people that aren't just in these studies, but also that research starts to incorporate these other perspectives from all different types of groups of people. So one of the things that we're hoping for is that exact kind of thing, and it seems that like other people also think this. So that's kind of nice. Um, Let me read another thought here. So, another group of people thought sometimes research has biases from researchers to find something out and potentially lead people to answer in certain ways. Yes, also, I would agree with this. There is definitely truth to this statement that researchers have a little bit of an agenda sometimes, right? Like there's going to be some subjectivity that goes on with the science. The science itself, like that is objective. Those are numbers that you can quantify, and like the data are the data, right? But at the end of the day, there has to be an interpretation of that data, and that is where some of these biases might creep in. I guess there are also biases that could happen at earlier stages. Where I mean, if people know what the researchers want to hear, maybe that people tell them that. Like we can't necessarily control that. We can control part of it, but um, yeah, I mean, these kinds of biases creep in research, and so hopefully we can start to just like shed light on some of these biases, and by making research a little bit more transparent, hopefully, um, I mean, yeah, what I just said, these biases will be shown and we can start to remove them.
One
But
more thing
I don't know if there's
too.
any, oh
Oh,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
no,
I
no.
was just thinking like another thing too is like researcher bias on the part of the researchers themselves, right? So it's not just like participants who are trying to figure out and like hypothesis guess, like, oh, what are you trying to have me do? But it could also be the researchers themselves. Like there's me search, right? Where it's like researchers doing stuff that, is on topics that they're inherently interested and like involved with. So there's biases all the way around, essentially.
Yes, thank you for jumping in. Hopefully I don't keep blabbering on, and Liz
Hopefully, I don't keep
will
cutting you
always.
off because I have a habit of doing that.
So yes, this whole idea that that researchers, I mean, why even do research if they didn't have thoughts? I think they have to be tied at some level, but hopefully we can get to a place where like the numbers really can speak for themselves, and it's not just up to the researchers to like say what this does and doesn't mean. Like we need people to say, oh, this actually does apply to me, or this doesn't apply to me. That should be like in your hands rather than the researcher's hands. Um, One other set of thoughts is that, so yeah, some people do feel like maybe psychological research has done a good job of being transparent, and they have seen 100% transparency, while others have thought that they didn't see enough information from the researchers, whether that is about like why they're asked to do certain things, or like did they get results? What are those results? When can they expect those results? Where can they find them? Things like that. Like I think there's so many times where researchers don't end up doing that kind of stuff, and I mean, I won't personally blame them because they have a lot on their plate. It's not a great system in order to do just every single thing, but hopefully that's also like why we're doing this, right? Um, to like concentrate on that side of things. Researchers can still do research, and then we just need to be like another set of people that can help get the word out there about what is actually occurring. Um, so there's like that kind of idea, and then once research is out there, I think there's also some idea on like people just not knowing what is going to be credible and what's not credible, and like how do they even decide that kind of stuff. And hopefully we can also shed some light on that, um, I mean, we're not gonna just like bash on some research, but we will say like what is maybe good about some research and what's not so good about some research. What can you conclude, what can't you conclude, what is credible, what's not credible. And that's not to say that like one research is just not credible and another research is credible. It could easily mean that like parts of it are credible and parts of this aren't credible. So yeah, it's all a complex mix of things that go on with this. um, yeah, I mean, any thoughts on anything?
Lots of thoughts. I mean, there's pros and
Oh, okay.
cons. There's pros and cons to all, different types of research, and I feel like that's part of the scientific method, right? Is that there's certain parts where we're trying to like improve upon the processes and everything just to move it forward. And I feel like, what you're saying is like we need to have more transparency and we need to get the word out there to other people. Like people need to have interaction with the research.
Yes. Okay, cool. That is so much better than what I just said.
No, not
That's
at all.
exactly what I mean to say. Um, but I like how you said it. There just needs to be a little bit more like interaction between these two groups, right? Like I think right now that is kind of like a major issue, is that everything is separate. Researchers are doing research, people are living their lives. Where do those two actually intersect? And we there needs to be some more like concentrated effort on making those two actually connect. Um, Okay, so I guess other things that came out from that study that we did, people do seem to be at least somewhat comfortable like interpreting and understanding research. Some people are able to find research. Some people even know like a little bit more about the research process. I think that's all great. But some people is not enough people. Like, why is that? Like, easily this could be everyone. Like, there's no reason why it can't be, other than just like maybe interests. But like, I, I I think I would bet that more people would be interested in this, that like wanting to know how to find research. How do I find something that's actually relevant for you? How do you know if that research has been done or not? Um, and also, I guess knowing a little bit more about like how the research is even done, then you can start to figure out like what is credible, what's not credible. Like once you have that like idea in your head, like that should be like what you're grasping onto. Those are like the general kind of like skills, I think, that we want to be able to like pass through our experiences as well. Um, Cool. Okay, so I mean that's what this whole podcast is about, right? That we want to give you the tools to help you find the research that's relevant to you. We want to help with interpretation of findings. We can start to give like a perspective. But even if we do this kind of stuff, like we're not trying to say like this is the perspective that you need to take. This is just to say that like I'm like from a research background, this is what this is trying to say, but like how that actually applies to you, like that's up to you. Like there's nothing that I could say that says like, oh, like because this study is done, like suddenly this is what your life is. Like that's not how this works. Like your life is still your life, and maybe the research is a reflection of it, maybe it's not a reflection of it. Again, that's up to you, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to
So
make your
then,
own
oh,
decisions. You know, like we can't say,
mhm.
oh, this is how life works, right? We can't generalize and things like that. At the end of the day, it's your decision. We're going to try to give you the resources to make those decisions, but we're not making them for you.
Yes. Um, but we do want to give like any of the skills and tools that we have to make it so that it's easier for you to parse through all of this research. So like another huge part of that is simplifying the language that's used. There's so many terms that are used in scientific writing, and even just like the way that like sentences are constructed and like the types of words that people choose, like even if they're normal English words, like they are still difficult words. So we want to help just like simplify all of that as well, cut through some of the jargon, hopefully explain what that jargon means. And then again, you can start to apply like something you learned from like one research paper. Some of those principles will undoubtedly like apply to other research papers. So hopefully we can give you like those kinds of skills as well. And I guess maybe the last thing here is thinking through how do we make things more transparent? And so one of the ways that we want to be able to do this is talking through um, like research methodology. And by knowing that research methodology, you can know what can and what can't be concluded from certain research methods. So I think and that's like literally all of us, like researchers and just like other people as well. There is trouble out there with like overstating, but also understating conclusions. Like sometimes you can actually conclude something that's like pretty firm from some of the research that's out there. And like you don't have to be so hesitant. But then I think probably the bigger problem is overstating. It's hard to not do it, right? Like we want to be able to connect research to our lives and like all of our experiences, and like I mean, unfortunately, like just all the research isn't out there for us to do that, and we want to do that in our heads. But yeah, when can you do that? When can't you do that? I think like knowing some of the research methodology will help with that.
Basically allowing you
Okay.
it's
Oh,
basically allowing you to engage in
yeah.
critical thinking. You know, like once you have those skills, it's so easy to transfer a lot of those skills to, like you said, like different papers. Granted, it's like different topics, you know, sometimes, but a lot of those skills transfer and like the knowledge does.
Mhm.
So yeah, just being able to like make informed decisions and know like, okay, is somebody overstating? Maybe they actually are understating and they have like solid evidence. So it's allowing you to
Mhm.
actually make those decisions with the knowledge that you gain.
Yeah, thank you. I think like I mean that kind of just like makes me think of another point of like why are we doing this? Like if we're going to
Why?
be telling people all these skills, all these tools, like they'll come for a little bit, they'll use us, and then they'll leave. Like they will have learned enough, and they don't need to be a part of this anymore.
No, that is not true, Alex, because there's always more to know. Like, think about us. We're
Mm.
scientists and we're still learning things. So there's always more to learn.
And that's true. Okay. I mean, basically, I'm just saying, like, don't leave us, people.
No.
But
You can stay around for our like
uh,
intrinsic quirks, you know? I mean, if you even hate
mm.
things we're saying, I feel like we're intrinsically interesting people with our quirks and all. So there's something for you here.
I'm sure the people will agree if they haven't left this podcast already at this
We hope
point.
you're still here.
Yeah. If you don't like the podcast, that's also okay, because we have a ton of things that we want to do with the research room. So we also have visual abstracts. If you don't want to hear us talk, you can just look at some pictures and like look at some very short sentences and hopefully get like some of the same information. If you want more extended kinds of things, we also have write-ups that we'll be posting where we'll be going into more details on like what the results are, what the implications are, and more of that, like what you can and can't include from these research papers. We have full guides that we'll be offering on like how do you even read the research. Like if you came across an empirical research article, I mean, yeah, I guess assuming you find it and you find something that you can actually access, which is also a huge issue. But maybe that's a whole other podcast episode or something to talk through that. But if you find that article, how would you even read through it? How do you interpret it? Are there parts you can skip over? These are lengthy articles. They're very dense.
But they're
they use
very
the complicated kind of
informative,
language.
very informative at the same
Yes,
time.
right. They're informative. They have their use, of course. But I think for many people, reading the entire thing word for word maybe isn't the best use of your time. So those guys are there to help get through some of that. And then yeah, we'll also have some more videos. Maybe you don't like this podcast version. Maybe you want to like look at some nice videos that we have coming out, like on explanations on I mean, who knows what's going to even come out? I don't know yet, but we want to do videos. Maybe you'll tell us what those videos should be. We want to make sure we're making content that's catering toward
Yeah.
like what you actually want. So that's basically it. Who am I to say that? I just rambled for 10, 15 minutes. So
It's good rambling. I'm sure the people agree.
yeah, too nice. So maybe I'll stop for a little bit. I'll just say quickly who I am. Liz will do a better job of saying who she is, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So I'm Alex. I've been the voice that's been in your ears for too long, I think. And what do I want to say about myself? I got my PhD a couple years ago. I mean, I've been doing research for maybe about 10 years. And with everything that I've been doing, like I've been hoping to like just make an impact on society. Like I want to be able to help people. And I mean, unfortunately, I just haven't been able to quite do that with the research that I'm doing. Like I'm not saying the research isn't good. It's just, it's not quite as applicable as I want it to be. And I think by hopefully maybe switching gears a little bit, like now having my science background, I can hopefully just like give more people the same kind of like background that I know, the same kind of knowledge that I know, and help you. Like maybe there are certain topics that you really want to get into. Hopefully, I can give you those skills to really deep dive into those topics and like show off to your friends or like whatever. But yeah, that's basically who I am in a nutshell at this point. So Liz, who are you?
Yes, who am I? So I'm Liz, and I'm finishing up my PhD, so almost done. And yeah, I've studied a wide range of research topics. I've done more like social psychological research on like blame shifting, so like why people blame others for their failures. I do work on romantic relationships and like what makes people more satisfied. Yeah, I do a whole bunch of research on like attachment style and like donor conception. So assisted reproduction, people trying to find like their sperm and egg donor. So yeah, basically a wide range of topics. But above and beyond, like I have been teaching for 5 years. So, not to say that my research is bad, because again, love what I do. But why I'm actually doing this with the research room is because of my love of teaching. I really want to combine the research that I've done and also the skills that I've acquired and help like get that out to the public, right, through the avenue of teaching. Because I feel like there's so many things, and research topics out there that are applicable to your lives. But again, like Alex was saying, like maybe you don't know how to actually find those papers. Maybe you don't know how to interpret them or like engage with the material. So it's my hope that I can like take my love of teaching and like my passion for it and, research and help like, take those two things and, teach the public stuff about research. So that is me in a nutshell.
Yeah, we should just we should have a poll at the end of this and say, who do you want to hear more? Do you want to hear Alex or do you want to hear Liz? And I think it'll be overwhelmingly Liz, given
No.
the way that she has presented the information compared to me today.
No, I'm the quiet one right now, so I feel like you should vote
Mm.
for him.
The quiet ones are the smart ones. They know how to sit back and
No, they're the secret crazy ones, so quiet equates to
Mm,
craziness.
mm,
It's true.
I don't know. Anyway, this has been our intro episode. Hopefully you
We
found
hope you've
something to use
enjoyed it.
here. Yeah. We're going to be doing more episodes where we interview people. We want to interview researchers. We'll have them come on, talk through their research, and we will do everything that we said we'll do. We want to talk through like why their research is important, how to interpret it, all of that. And again, hopefully that just like gives the skills needed to help parse through research in the future, or any research that you end up coming across. So uh, with that, I think we'll just go ahead and end it here. I don't have any special tagline for this ending part.
Actually, we didn't even tell them our tagline. We should before we end.
What? I thought we did. I said it.
Well, you know
I
what?
for
I think
sure
we should
said
say it
it.
again. We need to like reinforce it because it sums up what we do and why we're here and why you should tune in for the next podcast. Because we are research, it's a space for research by the people. Do you want to finish it?
Oh, go, no, just say it.
Okay, it's a space for research by the people for the people.
Cool. Yeah, and hopefully this will make more and more sense the more that we do this. But this has been a time. We hope to see you next time.
Yes, stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.